Hello friends. Did you know that nearly 80% of those who watch my videos aren't subscribed? If you enjoy the content, I'd truly appreciate it if you hit that subscribe button. It helps a lot. Also, don't forget to leave a like and share your thoughts in the comments. Your interaction not only supports the channel's growth, but also helps these stories reach more people. Thank you all for being here. By the way, where are you watching from? Let me know in the comments. I still double-check the locks before going to bed. My wife thinks it's just a habit left over from the military, and I let her think that. She doesn't know about the base in Yemen. Actually, no one does. Not officially. It was August 2011. They pulled me and 3 others out of the training rotation in Djibouti. There was no briefing packet, no mission parameters, just a captain I'd never seen before telling us we'd be taking off in 2 hours. Foster was with me. He was a good operator, quiet. The other 2 were borrowed from 3rd Team. I can barely remember their names now because they never came back. We flew into Aden on a contractor bird, no military markings. Switched to a land cruiser that had seen better days and drove north for 6 hours through terrain that looked like God had given up halfway through making it. Our driver was local, didn't speak, didn't look at us. Just drove with both hands locked on the wheel like he was afraid it might try to escape. The captain rode in the passenger seat with a folder on his lap he never opened. Every so often, he'd check his watch against the GPS coordinates on a handheld unit. That was it. No radio chatter. No check-ins. I remember Foster catching my eye in the rearview mirror with this look that said he was thinking the same thing I was. This felt wrong in a way that had nothing to do with the mission brief we hadn't received. We stopped just after dark at the base of a ridgeline. The driver killed the engine and just sat there, staring straight ahead. The captain got out, told us to gear up, and pointed at a footpath that disappeared into the rocks. Said we had a 4-hour hike to the target. When I asked what the target was, he looked at me like I'd asked him to explain gravity. "You'll know it when you see it," he said. So we humped. Full kit, night vision, suppressed weapons. The terrain was loose rock and thorn bush. Everything designed by nature to make noise or draw blood. We moved in single file, interval spacing. No comms except hand signals. The captain led. He moved well for someone who spent most of his time behind a desk. Too well, maybe. Like he'd done this specific walk before. After 3 hours, my calves were burning, and my lower back felt like someone had slipped a knife between my vertebrae. But you don't complain. You just keep moving. That's the job. Foster was behind me, breathing steady, professional. The 2 from Team 3 were holding up fine, too. Nobody talked. Then we came over a rise and saw it. There was a compound in the valley below. Not much, just a cluster of single-story buildings arranged in a rough square around a central courtyard. Concrete walls, flat roofs, no lights. But there was a generator running somewhere. I could hear the distant thrum of it, that particular frequency diesel engines make when they've been running for days without a break. The captain held up a fist, and we all took a knee. He glassed the compound through his binos for maybe 2 minutes without moving. Then he lowered them and turned to look at us. Even through the night vision, I could see something off in his expression. Not fear, something else. "No guards," he said. "Doors on the north wall. We go in, we grab the package, we extract. Simple." I wanted to ask what the package was. Foster opened his mouth to do exactly that, but the captain was already moving down the slope. So we followed. Because that's what you do. We approached from the east, using the terrain for cover. Standard movement drill. The whole time I'm scanning for sentries, firing positions, anything that looks like a defensive setup. Nothing. The place was dead quiet except for that generator. As we got closer, I realized the sound was coming from inside the compound, not outside. Underground, maybe. The door wasn't locked, it wasn't even fully closed. Just a heavy metal thing hanging slightly ajar on its hinges. The captain stacked up first, weapon raised, then nodded at me. I moved up, put my hand on the door, and pushed it open slow. The smell hit us immediately. Rot and chemicals, and something else I couldn't place. The kind of smell that coats the back of your throat and stays there. One of the Team 3 guys gagged but kept it together. We moved inside. The courtyard was empty. Concrete floor, high walls on all sides, doors leading to different sections of the compound. The generator sound was louder here, coming from somewhere below us. There were dark stains on the concrete that could have been oil or could have been something else. I didn't look too close. The captain pointed at the door straight ahead. We moved to it, stacked up again, went through. Inside was a hallway, fluorescent lights flickering overhead, even though there shouldn't have been power to them. The walls were concrete block, painted white a long time ago. Now they were gray with dirt and something that looked like mold but grew in patterns too regular to be natural. We cleared 3 rooms, all empty, furniture overturned, papers scattered, the same chemical smell getting stronger. In the 3rd room, there was a desk with a computer on it, still running, screen showing lines of text in Arabic scrolling past too fast to read. Foster moved to check it, but the captain grabbed his shoulder, shook his head. "Not the package," he said. We kept moving. The hallway ended at a stairwell going down. The generator sound was definitely coming from below now, along with something else. A humming. Not mechanical, organic, like someone breathing through a ventilator, but the rhythm was wrong. The captain started down the stairs without hesitation. I followed, weapon up, every nerve in my body screaming that this was the moment we should turn around. But you don't turn around. You trust the chain of command. You do your job. The stairwell went down 3 flights. The walls were the same concrete block, but down here they were slick with condensation. The temperature had dropped maybe 15 degrees. My breath fogged in front of my face. The humming got louder with each step, layering over the generator noise until I couldn't tell where one ended and the other began. At the bottom was another hallway, shorter this time. Just 2 doors, one on each side, and a third at the far end. The lights down here weren't flickering. They were steady, bright, surgical. The floor was spotless, not a speck of dust. Someone had been maintaining this space. The captain walked straight to the door at the end, put his hand on the handle, looked back at us. "This is it," he said. "What we came for." He opened the door. Inside was a room maybe 20 feet square, white walls, white floor, white ceiling. In the center was a metal table, the kind you see in an operating room. And on the table was a man. He was strapped down, wrists, ankles, chest, forehead. He wasn't moving, but his eyes were open, staring at the ceiling. He was breathing. That's what we'd been hearing. His breath coming in and out with that mechanical rhythm, like his lungs were being operated by something outside his control. The captain walked up to the table, looked down at the man's face. Then he reached into his vest and pulled out a syringe, clear liquid inside. He didn't say anything, just uncapped it and stuck it in the man's arm. The man's eyes didn't move, didn't blink, just kept staring at the ceiling while whatever was in that syringe went into his bloodstream. "What the fuck is this?" Foster said behind me. The captain didn't answer. He was watching the man on the table. After maybe 30 seconds, the man's breathing changed, got faster, shallower. His fingers started twitching against the restraints. Then his eyes moved, locked onto the captain's face, and he smiled. I've seen a lot of things. I've seen men die in ways that would turn your stomach. I've seen aftermath that doesn't leave your head no matter how much you drink or how many years pass. But I had never seen a smile like that. It wasn't human. It wasn't anything that should have been on a person's face. The captain stepped back. "Unstrap him," he said. "Sir?" I heard myself say. "Unstrap him. That's an order." I didn't move. Neither did Foster. The two from Team 3 just stood there in the doorway like they'd been frozen. The captain pulled his sidearm and pointed it at me. I said, "Unstrap him." That's when I knew we weren't getting out of this the way we came in. But you follow orders, even when they're wrong, even when every instinct you have is screaming at you to put a round in the person giving them. You follow orders because that's the structure that keeps you alive. So I moved to the table, started undoing the strap on his right wrist. The man's eyes followed me, still smiling. His breathing had normalized, but there was something wrong with his chest. It was moving, but not in sync with his breaths, like there was something else inside him, operating on its own rhythm. I got the wrist free, moved to his left. The whole time the captain stood there with his weapon trained on me, watching. Foster had moved to the other side of the table and was working on the ankle restraints. Nobody said anything. The only sound was that generator and that breathing that wasn't quite right. When we got the last strap off, the man sat up. He moved smooth, too smooth, like his joints didn't have the normal resistance. He swung his legs off the table and stood, looked at each of us in turn, still smiling. "Thank you," he said. Perfect English, American accent. "I've been waiting for you." The captain lowered his weapon. "It's done," he said. To who, I don't know. The man on the table? Someone listening, himself? The man stretched, rolled his shoulders, tilted his head from side to side until his neck popped. "How long was I here?" he asked. 47 days, the captain said. Felt longer. Then the man looked at me, really looked at me. His eyes were brown, but there was no light in them. They absorbed everything and gave nothing back. "You're wondering what this is," he said. "What you're part of." I didn't answer. He smiled wider. "That's good. Questions mean you're still processing. Still trying to fit this into the world you understand. That'll pass." He walked past me, past Foster, past the Team 3 guys who pressed themselves against the wall to avoid contact, into the hallway. The captain followed. We followed the captain because what else were we going to do? The man led us back up the stairs, through the compound, out into the courtyard. He moved like he owned the place, like he'd built it with his own hands and knew every inch. When we got outside, he stopped, looked up at the sky, took a deep breath. "Good to be out," he said. Then to the captain, "The others?" "Waiting," the captain said. "Good." We humped back the way we'd come. 4 hours in the dark, nobody talking. The man walked point with the captain. I was behind them, then Foster, then the Team 3 guys. Every so often I'd catch Foster looking at me with this expression that said he was working through the same calculations I was. How fast could we move? How far we'd get? Whether anyone would believe us if we made it back to tell what happened. But you don't run. You complete the mission, even when you don't know what the mission is. The Land Cruiser was waiting where we'd left it. The driver was still there, same position, same 1,000-yard stare. The man got in the passenger seat. The captain got in back with us. Nobody spoke during the 6-hour drive to Aden. At the airfield, there was a different plane waiting. Bigger. No markings at all, not even contractor logos. The man got on first, then the captain, then us. The plane took off before the door was fully closed. Somewhere over the Mediterranean, the captain came back to where we were sitting. Handed each of us a folder. "You'll read this and sign it," he said. Your mission today was a training exercise into Djibouti. You never left the base. You never saw anything. You never met anyone. Inside the folder was a document, dense legal text that boiled down to, you talk, you disappear. There was a place for our signature at the bottom. I signed it, Foster signed it, the Team 3 guys signed it. What else were we going to do? We landed at a base I didn't recognize. They separated us immediately, put us in different transport. I didn't see Foster again for 3 years. When I did run into him at a joint training op, we made eye contact across the room and I saw in his face that he remembered. But we didn't talk about it. You don't talk about things that don't officially exist. I got out in 2013. Honorable discharge, full benefits. Married my girl, bought a house, got a job consulting for a security contractor. Normal life. The kind of life you're supposed to have after you serve. But I still check the locks twice before bed, and sometimes, late at night when I can't sleep, I think about that man in the compound. The way he moved, the way he smiled, the thing I saw in his chest that moved wrong. 3 months ago, I was at a conference in D.C. Defense contractors, government liaison types, the usual crowd. I was networking, shaking hands, playing the game. Then I saw him across the room. Same face, same eyes that absorbed light and gave nothing back. Wearing an expensive suit now, talking to a senator I recognized from the news. He saw me looking. Smiled that same smile. Raised his glass in my direction like we were old friends. I left the conference, drove straight home, didn't tell my wife why I was back early. That night I woke up at 3 a.m. There was someone standing at the foot of my bed, just a silhouette in the dark. I reached for the gun I keep in the nightstand, but my hand wouldn't move. Neither would the rest of me. I was locked in place, staring at this shape that shouldn't be in my house. It leaned forward. I still couldn't see the face, but I didn't need to. You did good work that day, it said. Same voice from the compound. We're going to need you again soon. Then it was gone. Just gone, like it had never been there. I could move again. I checked every door, every window, all locked. No sign of entry. My wife was still asleep next to me, hadn't stirred once. I haven't slept right since. And yesterday, I got a package in the mail. No return address. Inside was a folder, just like the one from 2011. Inside the folder was a single sheet of paper with a date and a set of coordinates. Nothing else. The date is next week. The coordinates are in Somalia. I told my wife I have a consulting job overseas. She believed me. Why wouldn't she? I've done a dozen of them since I got out. She kissed me goodbye this morning, told me to be safe. I'm sitting at the airport now, watching the planes take off. My flight board's in 20 minutes. I keep telling myself I don't have to get on it. I could walk away, drive home. Forget the folder, forget the coordinates, forget all of it. But I know I won't. Because the thing I haven't told you yet, the thing I haven't told anyone, is what I saw in that room after they unstrapped the man from the table. There was something on the wall behind where he'd been lying, carved into the concrete. I only saw it for a second before the captain moved to block my view, but it's burned into my head. It was a list of names, maybe 30 of them, scratched in with something sharp, the letters uneven and desperate. Foster's name was on that list, my name was on that list. And at the bottom, in fresher scratches like they'd been added recently, were 2 more names I recognized. My wife's name, my daughter's name. They're calling my flight. I need to go. The coffee's gone cold again. I keep forgetting to drink it while it's hot. My hands don't shake anymore, which is something. They used to shake for months after I got back. The doctor said it was neurological damage from the cold. They were half right. Nobody goes to Svalbard in February unless they have to. We had to. This was 2014, during that window when everyone was real interested in what the Russians were doing up north. Submarine activity, signals intelligence, that kind of thing. Our job was simple on paper. Get dropped on the ice, hump to a listening post that had gone dark, find out why, fix it if we could, report back. There were 4 of us. Me, Kane, and 2 tech guys whose names I'm not supposed to remember, but I do. Paulson and Reed. Good men. Kane and I had worked together before, a couple of tours in Afghanistan, one in Iraq. He was solid. The kind of guy you want next to you when things go sideways. The tech guys were Navy, not SEALs, but they'd been through enough cold weather training to not be a liability. Or so we thought. We flew in on a Norwegian transport. They dropped us maybe 40 miles from the listening post. The pilot didn't cut the engine, just hovered low enough for us to jump with our gear. As soon as we were clear, he was gone. Rotors fading into that absolute silence you only get in the Arctic. No birds, no wind that day. Just empty white in every direction and the kind of cold that makes your teeth hurt. The plan was a 3-day hike. We had GPS coordinates, sat phone for emergencies only, enough supplies for a week if we stretched it. Standard cold weather kit, weapons we didn't expect to use. This wasn't a combat mission. It was maintenance. We all knew that. We all believed it. The first day was fine. Long, exhausting, but fine. We made good time across the ice, keeping interval, taking regular breaks to check for frostbite. Kane took point. I was second. The tech guys drafted behind us where the walking was easier. By the time we made camp that first night, we were maybe 15 miles closer to the post. We pitched the tent, got the heater running, ate our rations cold because hot food meant condensation, and condensation meant ice in places you didn't want ice. Reed was the talker. Couldn't help himself. He'd fill every silence with something, didn't matter what. That first night he was going on about his girlfriend back in San Diego, plans they had, house they were going to buy. Paulson told him to shut up twice. I let it go. Sometimes talking helps. Sometimes the silence up there gets inside you and you need to push it back out with noise. The second day the weather changed. Not a storm, nothing dramatic. Just this fog that rolled in around midday and wouldn't lift. Visibility dropped to maybe 20 feet. We slowed down, tightened the interval, kept moving. Kane was navigating by GPS because you couldn't see the sun, couldn't see anything except white ground and white air and the 3 shapes in front of or behind you depending on where you were in the line. That's when we started hearing it. Not hearing exactly, feeling it. This low-frequency sound just at the edge of perception, like standing near a big turbine engine, that pressure in your chest that isn't quite noise. Kane stopped, held up a fist. We all froze. He pulled out the GPS, checked it, looked around at nothing. "We're close," he said. "Maybe 2 miles." "Close to what?" Paulson asked. "The post. That sound coming from there? Maybe. Could be a generator." But it didn't sound like a generator. It didn't sound like anything man-made. It was too regular. Too perfect. Like a heartbeat, but slower. Deeper. We kept moving. The fog got thicker. That sound got louder. Though louder isn't the right word. More present, more inside you. Reed stopped talking. Even he felt it. The listening post appeared out of the fog like a memory. 1 second there was nothing. The next second there it was. A low bunker, half buried in snow and ice, just a metal door and a ventilation stack visible above the surface. No lights, no movement, no sound except that pulse that was everywhere now. Kane tried the door. Locked. He knocked, 3 hard raps with his gloved fist. No response. He knocked again, harder. Nothing. "Should we breach it?" Reed asked. "It's our facility," Kane said. "We've got access codes." He pulled out a laminated card from inside his parka, numbers printed on it. He punched them into the keypad next to the door. The pad beeped. The lock disengaged with a heavy clunk. The door swung inward on hydraulic hinges. Warm air hit us. Not hot, just warmer than outside. Above, freezing. And with it came a smell. Not rot, not chemicals. Something else. Organic but wrong. Like meat that's been cooked too long and then left out. Kane went in first. I followed. The tech guys came last. We were in an entry chamber, maybe 10 by 10, concrete walls, another door on the far side. Standard airlock setup to keep the cold out. There were boots lined up against one wall, 4 pairs. Parkas hanging on hooks, like whoever was here had just stepped away for a minute. "Hello?" Kane called out. His voice died in the space. No echo. The sound just stopped. No response. He moved to the inner door. This one wasn't locked. He pushed it open and we went through into the main facility. It was one big room. Living space on one end with bunks and a kitchenette. Workspace on the other end with equipment racks and monitors and cables running everywhere. In between was a table with 4 chairs. There was food on the table. Plates with half-eaten meals. Cups with liquid in them, surface frozen over. Like someone had just stopped eating and walked away. But no one was there. Kane swept his weapon across the room even though there was clearly nobody to shoot. Training. I did the same. The tech guys just stood there, staring. "Where are they?" Reed asked. "Check the equipment," Kane said to him. To Paulson, "See if there's a log, something that says what happened." They moved off. I walked over to the table, looked at the plates. Pasta, looked like, some kind of red sauce. I touched one of the cups. The ice on top was thick. This had been here for days at least, maybe longer. There was a door on the far side of the room, closed. I pointed at it. Kane nodded. We stacked up on either side. He turned the handle, pulled it open. Bathroom, toilet, sink, shower. Small. Empty. Except for the mirror over the sink, someone had written on it in what looked like condensation. The words long since dried but still visible. "Don't listen to it." "Kane," I said. He looked, went very still. "What the fuck?" he said. Not a question. Just a statement. Behind us, Paulson called out. "I found the log." We went back into the main room. Paulson had a laptop open on one of the workstations. "Last entry is from February 3rd, he said. "That's 12 days ago." "What's it say?" Kane asked. Paulson read from the screen. "Equipment functioning normally. All systems green. No anomalies to report." He looked up. "That's it? Nothing after that?" "What about before that?" I asked. He scrolled up. "January 30th, same thing. All systems normal. January 28th, same. It's just routine logs going back weeks. Nothing unusual." Reed was at the equipment racks, checking connections. "Everything's powered up," he said. "Running normally. Whatever they were listening for, they're still listening for it." "So, where are they?" Paulson asked again. Nobody answered, because there wasn't an answer that made sense. 4 people don't just disappear from a sealed bunker in the middle of the Arctic. Their cold weather gear was still in the entry chamber. You don't go outside without your gear. Not up here. You'd be dead in minutes. Kane walked over to the bunks, ran his hand over one of the blankets. "Beds are made," he said. "Neat, military corners." "So?" Reed said. "So you don't make your bed if you're planning to disappear." That sound was still there, that pulse. I'd almost gotten used to it, but now that we were inside, I could feel it coming up through the floor, through the walls. The whole structure was resonating with it. "Where's that coming from?" I asked. Paulson pointed at one of the monitors. "There's a subsurface array," he said. "Microphones embedded in the ice about 100 feet down. They're picking up something. Can you play it?" He clicked a few buttons. Speakers crackled. Then that sound came through, clear and loud. Not a pulse, a rhythm. Complex, layered. Like music, but with no melody, just patterns of sound that repeated and varied and overlapped. "How long's it been doing that?" Kane asked. Paulson checked another screen. "According to this, it started on February 2nd. Has been continuous since then. The day before the last log entry. The day before the crew stopped existing." "Where's it coming from?" I asked. "Unknown. The array's picking it up from below. Depth indeterminate. It's not machinery, not geological. The analysis software can't classify it." We stood there listening. After a while, you could almost make out patterns. Almost convince yourself it meant something. That it was trying to communicate. Which was insane. There's nothing down there, nothing alive. But there it was. Kane told Paulson to shut it off. He did. But we could still hear it. Fainter now, but still there. Coming up through the floor. "We should report this," Reed said. Kane pulled out the sat phone, tried to power it on, nothing. He checked the battery, full charge. He tried again. Dead. "There's a radio here," Paulson said, pointing at the equipment rack. "Built into the facility, should be working." He moved to it, flipped switches. Static. He adjusted the frequency, more static. He went through the whole spectrum, nothing but white noise. "Something's jamming it," he said. "The sound?" I asked. "Maybe. I don't know. This shouldn't be possible." Kane looked at me. I saw in his face that he was thinking the same thing I was. We needed to leave. Right now. Forget the mission. Forget the equipment. Just get out and hump back to the extraction point. But you don't leave without orders. And our orders were to find out what happened and fix it. "We camp here tonight," Kane said. "In the morning, we troubleshoot the comms. Get a message out. Let command decide what to do next." Nobody argued. The alternative was pitching a tent on the ice in the fog with that sound coming up from below. At least here we had walls, heat, supplies. We ate dinner, nobody talked much. That sound was in everything now, in the hum of the heater, in the crackle of our food packaging. Inside my head. I kept waiting for it to stop, for there to be silence. But it didn't stop. Reed took first watch. We worked in 2-hour rotations, someone always awake, always alert. Kane and I took the bunks on one side. Paulson took the other. Reed sat at the table with a cup of instant coffee, trying to stay warm. I didn't sleep. I laid there in my sleeping bag, eyes closed, listening. After a while, I realized the sound had a structure. A beginning, middle, end. And then it would repeat. The cycle was long, maybe 15 minutes, but it was there. Exact, perfect. Something was making that sound. Something was maintaining it. I must have dozed off eventually because I woke up to Kane shaking my shoulder. "Your watch," he said. I checked my watch. 0200. I'd been out for 3 hours. I sat up, groggy. Reed was asleep at the table, head on his arms. "Hey," I said, shook him. "Reed." He jerked awake, looked at me with eyes that didn't focus right. "What?" "Your watch is over. Go sleep." He nodded. stood up slow, walked to his bunk like he was moving through water, laid down without taking off his boots. I sat at the table, made myself coffee, watched the clock and listened to that sound and waited for dawn, even though dawn was still hours away and wouldn't mean anything anyway, because in February this far north the sun barely clears the horizon. Around 400 I heard something. Not the sound from below, something else. Coming from the bathroom, running water. I stood up, moved quiet to the bathroom door, listened. Yeah, water running. The shower, I pushed the door open. The shower was on. Steam filling the small space. But nobody was in it. The water was just running, hot, spraying against the wall. I turned it off. The knob was hot to the touch. Scalding, like it had been running for hours. But I'd been awake the whole watch. Nobody had gotten up. Nobody had gone into the bathroom. I went back into the main room. Everyone was in their bunks. Reed, Paulson, Kane, all asleep or appearing to sleep. I checked the entry chamber. Door was still closed, still locked from inside. I sat back down at the table. Half an hour later, I heard it again. The shower. Running, this time I didn't get up. I just sat there and listened to it and felt that sound from below vibrating in my chest, and waited for my watch to end. When it did, when 600 came and I woke Paulson to take over, I didn't mention the shower. I don't know why. Maybe I thought he wouldn't believe me. Maybe I didn't believe it myself. I laid down in my bunk, didn't take off my boots either, closed my eyes, didn't sleep. Sometime later, could have been minutes or hours, I heard voices, quiet, urgent. I opened my eyes. Paulson was at the equipment racks, headphones on, listening to something. Reed was next to him, watching the monitors. "What is it?" Kane asked. He was awake too. "The sound," Paulson said. "It changed." "Changed how?" "It's faster. The pattern is different." I got up, walked over. Paulson handed me the headphones. I put them on. He was right. The sound was different now. Still that same basic pulse, but the rhythm was accelerating. And there was something else underneath it. Something like words. Not words, but close. Syllables. Phonemes. Sound shaped like language. I took off the headphones. "That's not natural," I said. "No," Paulson said. "It's not." "So what is it?" "I don't know, but I think it knows we're here." Kane pulled him away from the equipment. "Don't say that. Don't even think that." "I'm serious. Look at this." He pointed at one of the monitors. "This is the frequency analysis. It started changing 8 hours ago, right around the time we got here." "Coincidence," Kane said. "Maybe. Or maybe it's responding to us." "Responding how?" "It's a sound. It doesn't think. I don't know what it does. I just know what the data says." We stood there looking at those monitors, at the waveforms and frequency charts that meant nothing to me, everything to the tech guys. Reed was pale, shaking a little. He kept looking at the door to the entry chamber like he was calculating how fast he could get through it. "We need to destroy this," Kane said suddenly. "What?" Paulson asked. "The equipment, all of it. Shut it down, pack it with C4, blow it into scrap." "We can't do that. This is a multi-million-dollar. I don't give a fuck what it costs. Something's wrong here. You can feel it. We all can. We destroy this and we leave." "That's not our call," I said. "We need authorization." "Then get me authorization. Get the sat phone working. Get the radio working. Get me any kind of comms so I can talk to someone who can make that call." But we couldn't. We spent the next 4 hours trying. Different frequencies, different protocols, emergency channels. Nothing. Just that wall of static, and underneath it, if you listened close, that sound, that rhythm that was inside everything now. By noon, local time, we were all on edge, short with each other, snapping over nothing. Reed wanted to leave, just gear up and start walking back to the extraction point. Paulson wanted to stay, figure out what the sound was, complete the mission properly. Kane and I were caught in the middle, trained to follow orders, but also trained to trust our instincts when something was wrong. And something was very wrong. That's when the lights went out. Not all at once, one by one. The overheads flickering, dimming, going dark. In 30 seconds, we went from full visibility to just the glow of the equipment monitors and the emergency lighting that kicked in automatically. "Generator?" Kane asked. "Shouldn't be," Paulson said. "There's backup systems. Redundancy." The heater shut off. We could hear it wind down, that comforting hum just stopping. The temperature started dropping immediately. You could feel it. See your breath condensing in the beam of your flashlight. Kane made a decision. "We're leaving, now. Gear up, weapons, supplies, everything. We hump back to extraction and we do it fast. I'll take responsibility for abandoning the mission." Nobody argued. We moved to the entry chamber, started pulling on our cold weather gear. Parkas, face masks, goggles. I was reaching for my boots when I noticed. There were only 3 pairs. When we came in, there had been 4 pairs lined up against the wall. The crew's boots. Now there were 3. "Kane," I said. He saw it. Went still. "Where's the 4th pair?" We searched the entry chamber. The main room, the bathroom, no boots, like they'd just vanished. "Maybe we counted wrong," Reed said. His voice was high, thin. "Maybe there were only ever 3. There were 4, I said. "I remember. I counted them." "This doesn't matter," Kane said. "We're leaving." He opened the outer door. Fog poured in, thick and white and so cold it burned. He stepped out into it. I followed. Behind me, I heard Paulson and Reed coming through. We got maybe 20 feet from the bunker when Kane stopped. "What?" I asked. He was looking at his GPS, frowning. He tapped it, shook it, looked at me. "It's not working." I checked mine. Dead. Battery showed full, but the screen wouldn't turn on. "Fuck," Paulson said. He'd checked his, too. Same thing. "We can navigate by compass," Kane said. "We know the heading. Due south 40 miles. We can make it." But when we checked our compasses, they were spinning. All of them. Slow circles, never settling on north, like the magnetic field was broken. Reed made a noise, not a word. Just a sound, high and desperate. He turned back toward the bunker, started walking fast. "Reed!" Kane shouted, but he kept going, disappeared into the fog. We went after him, but the fog was too thick. Visibility down to nothing. We could have been 10 feet from him or 100. We called his name. Nothing came back. Then we heard the scream, short, sharp, cut off abruptly from the direction of the bunker. Kane ran toward it. So did I. Paulson was behind us, breathing hard. We found the bunker door, still open. We went through, into the entry chamber. Reed was there, on the floor, on his back. Eyes open, not moving. I knelt next to him, checked for a pulse, found one, strong, steady. But he wasn't responding, wasn't blinking, just staring at the ceiling. "Reed," I said, shook him. Nothing. His lips moved, words came out, quiet, rhythmic. He was repeating the sound, that pattern from below, vocalizing it. His lips and tongue and throat shaping those inhuman syllables. "Jesus Christ," Paulson said. Kane grabbed Reed by his parka, pulled him upright, slapped his face. "Reed, snap out of it!" Reed's eyes focused, locked onto Kane's face, and he smiled. The same kind of smile I'd seen before, years ago, in a different place. The smile that isn't human. "It wants us to listen," Reed said. His voice was calm, happy. It's been alone so long, down there in the dark. It just wants us to listen. Kane dropped him, stepped back, pulled his sidearm. "Don't," I said. Put my hand on his arm. "He's gone," Kane said. "We don't know that." "Look at him." I looked. Reed was sitting up now, still smiling, humming that sound. Perfect pitch, perfect rhythm. "We need to restrain him," Paulson said, before he... Reed stood up, fast, smooth, walked past us into the main room. We followed. He went straight to the equipment racks, started pulling cables. Not random. Deliberate. Like he knew exactly which ones to pull. Monitors went dark, systems shut down. That sound we'd been recording, analyzing, trying to understand went silent. And in the silence that followed, we could hear it clearly now, coming from outside, from the ice, all around us, not recorded, not transmitted, direct. The whole world was full of it. Reed turned around, looked at us. "You should have listened when it was quiet," he said. "Now it's too late. Now it knows you're afraid." Paulson lunged at him. Reed moved, too fast, caught Paulson's arm, twisted. Something snapped. Paulson screamed. Reed threw him across the room into the bunks. Paulson hit hard. Didn't get up. Kane fired. 3 rounds. Center mass. I saw them hit. Saw Reed's parka tear. Saw blood. Reed looked down at his chest. Looked back up at Kane. Still smiling. "That won't work," he said. "I'm not me anymore." Then he collapsed. Just dropped like his strings were cut. Hit the floor and didn't move. I moved to Paulson. He was conscious, but his arm was bent wrong, broken badly, bone showing through the skin. He was in shock, pale, breathing fast. Kane stood over Reed's body, weapon still raised, shaking. "We need to leave," I said. "Right now. We carry Paulson. We leave Reed. We go." "We can't navigate," Kane said. "I don't care. We pick a direction and we walk. Anything's better than staying here." He nodded, slowly, lowered his weapon. We got Paulson on his feet. I took one side, Kane took the other. We moved to the entry chamber, through the door, into the fog. We walked for hours. Maybe. Time felt wrong, stretched, compressed. The fog never lifted. That sound never stopped. It was in my head now. Had been for a while. I kept catching myself humming it. Paulson was delirious, talking to people who weren't there, asking his girlfriend why she was so cold, apologizing to his mother for things that made no sense. Kane was quiet, too quiet. I'd see him checking his compass every few minutes, even though we knew it didn't work. Just a ritual, something to hold on to. Then Paulson said something that made me stop. "Do you hear them singing?" "There's nobody singing," I said. "Yes, there is. Listen, so many voices." I listened. All I heard was that pulse, that rhythm. But underneath it, maybe, if you listened right, you could almost hear harmonics, layers, like a chorus. "Keep moving," Kane said. We moved. But after another hour, Paulson got heavy. Stopped walking. Just hung between us, dead weight. "Paulson," I said, shook him. "Stay with us." His head lolled forward. His lips were moving, shaping words, that same pattern, that same sound. "Fuck," Kane said. "Not him too." Paulson's eyes opened, looked at me, through me. "You're afraid," he said. "Don't be afraid. It's beautiful down there. It's been waiting so long, it just wants to share." "Share what?" I asked. Couldn't help myself. "Everything, all of it, the song that holds the world together." Then he pulled away from us. Stood on his own, even though his arm was shattered. Walked into the fog. We went after him, but he was gone, just gone, like the fog had swallowed him whole. It was just me and Kane now. We kept walking, didn't talk, didn't stop. Just put one foot in front of the other and hoped we were going the right direction. The fog started to thin eventually. We could see maybe 50 feet, then 100. The sound was quieter too, still there but distant. We found open water, a lead in the ice, maybe 20 feet across, running perpendicular to our path. The edges were fresh. This had opened recently, steam rising off the dark water. "We have to go around," Kane said. But when we turned to follow the lead, it just kept going, miles in each direction. And we didn't have miles left. Paulson's coat had the medical supplies. Reed's pack had half our food. We were running on empty. "We swim," I said. "In that? We'd have maybe 2 minutes before hypothermia. You got a better idea?" He didn't. We stripped down to our base layers, sealed our weapons and critical gear in waterproof bags, counted to 3 and jumped. The cold wasn't like anything I can describe. It wasn't pain, it was beyond pain. Every cell in my body screaming at once. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think, just had to swim, had to move, had to get to the other side. I made it, hauled myself up onto the ice. Kane pulled himself up next to me. We were both shaking so hard we couldn't stand. Fumbled our dry clothes back on, got the body heat going again. Slowly, so slowly. "Can you walk?" I asked Kane. He nodded. We walked. An hour later, we found tracks. Human tracks. Boot prints in the snow. "Someone else is out here," Kane said. We followed them. They were fresh, clear, leading in the same direction we were going. We followed them for maybe a mile. Then they just stopped, middle of nowhere. No disturbance, no sign of a struggle. Just the tracks ending like whoever made them had been lifted straight up into the air. Kane knelt down, studied the last print, looked up at me. "These are my boots," he said. I looked. He was right. Same tread pattern, same wear marks, exact match to what he was wearing. "That's impossible," I said. "Yeah." We kept walking, left the tracks behind. But every so often I'd look back and I swear I could see them still there, following us now instead of leading. It was dark when we saw the lights, not dawn, just dark. And there on the horizon, maybe a mile distant, lights, white and steady. "What is that?" Kane asked. "I don't know. Could be our extraction. 2 days early? Maybe they sent out a search when they lost contact." We moved toward it. The lights got closer, brighter. We could see structures now, prefab buildings, vehicles, people moving around. "Thank Christ," Kane said. We came into the camp. Nobody challenged us. Nobody seemed surprised to see us. We were just there suddenly, and people were looking at us but not really seeing us. I grabbed someone, a Norwegian guy in a blue parka. "Who's in charge here?" I asked. He looked at me, smiled. "You should rest," he said. "You've had a long journey. I need to report in. I need a radio. Of course, right this way." He led us to one of the buildings, opened the door. Inside was warm, too warm, bright. There were people sitting at tables, drinking coffee, talking quietly. They all looked up when we came in. All smiled. "Welcome home," one of them said. And that's when I realized. Every single person in that room was wearing the same face. Not similar, same, like they'd all been stamped from the same mold. The face was Reed's. Kane saw it too. He pulled his sidearm, spun toward the door, but the Norwegian was blocking it, still smiling. "You can't leave," Reed's face said from a dozen mouths. You're part of the song now. You've been part of it since you first heard it. You just didn't know yet." I looked at Kane. He looked at me. And in his eyes I saw the same thing I felt. We'd lost. We'd lost a long time ago. Probably the moment we entered that bunker. Maybe before. "Kane," I said. "Yeah? How many fingers am I holding up?" I wasn't holding up any fingers. I had my hands at my sides, but Kane looked at my hand, looked back at my face. "3, he said. I nodded. "Yeah, 3. Because I could see them too. 3 fingers. Even though they weren't there. That was 6 years ago. I'm sitting in my apartment now, writing this. Outside it's summer, but I can't stop shivering. I keep the heat at 80. I wear layers, but I'm always cold." They found us 3 days later. Norwegian rescue team. We were hypothermic, frostbitten, dehydrated, but alive. Reed and Paulson were never found. The listening post was empty when they checked it. All the equipment was functional. No sign of any malfunction. The official report said we suffered a shared psychotic episode brought on by isolation and extreme conditions. I was medically discharged. Kane was too. We both agreed with the report. What else could we say? But sometimes, late at night, I still hear it. That sound, that rhythm. And I know it's not in my head, it's real. It's always been real. Last week I got a message. Email from an address I didn't recognize. No text, just an attachment. Audio file. I didn't want to open it. I almost deleted it, but I couldn't help myself. It was 14 minutes and 43 seconds long. Pure sound. No music, no words. Just that rhythm I remember from Svalbard. And underneath it, if you listened very carefully, you could hear voices. 3 of them, singing in perfect harmony. I recognized all 3 voices. Mine was one of them. The paperwork took longer than the actual mission. That's what I remember thinking at the time. 3 hours of signing forms and initialing clauses and acknowledging that I understood the implications of a black operation in a country we weren't officially operating in. The lawyer who walked me through it all had dead eyes and a voice like wet gravel. When I asked what we were actually going to be doing, he just slid another form across the desk. This was 2008, the Horn of Africa. Everyone's eyes were on Iraq and Afghanistan, which meant other places got real quiet real fast. Quiet's where the interesting work happens. They paired me with a guy named Dalton. I'd never worked with him before, but his file was impressive. 3 deployments, multiple commendations, psychological evals that showed exactly the kind of compartmentalization you need for work like this. We met in a hangar at a base that wasn't on any map. He was compact, maybe 5'8", all coiled muscle and scar tissue. We shook hands, didn't talk much, didn't need to. Our handler was a contractor named Bishop, late 40s, soft around the middle, the kind of guy who'd spent his 20s kicking doors and his 30s sitting behind them. He spread a map across a folding table that was more rust than metal. "Your target is here," he said, pointing to a spot where the border between Ethiopia and Somalia got vague and theoretical. Agricultural Research Station, built by the Soviets in the 70s, abandoned in the 90s, except it's not abandoned anymore. "Who's using it?" I asked. "We don't know. Satellite imagery shows activity. Vehicles coming and going. Power generation. But nobody's claiming it. Ethiopian government says it's not theirs. Somali transitional government doesn't know it exists. So we need eyes on. That's it? Reconnaissance? That's it. You go in, you see what's happening, you document it, you get out. 72 hours max. No engagement unless absolutely necessary." "What kind of activity are we talking about?" Dalton asked. First words he'd spoken. Bishop pulled out a folder. Inside were satellite photos. Grainy, high angle, but clear enough. The research station was maybe 20 buildings arranged in a grid. Greenhouses, storage facilities. One larger structure that could have been administration or housing. And in the yard between them, people. Lots of people. Thermal imaging shows approximately 300 individuals, Bishop said. Minimal movement. They're not farming. They're not conducting research. They're just there. Refugees? I suggested. Possible. But refugees move. These people don't. They stay in the compound. They don't leave, ever. Food and supplies get trucked in every 3 days like clockwork, but we've never seen anyone truck out. Dalton leaned closer to the photos. Any defenses, guards, weapons? None visible. Place is wide open. No perimeter security. No watchtowers. Nothing. So what's keeping 300 people in a place they could walk away from any time? Bishop looked at him. Looked at me. That's what you're going to find out. We flew in on a contractor bird that dropped us 50 miles north of the target. From there, it was a 2-day hump through terrain that shifted between scrubland and bush so thick you had to cut your way through. We moved at night, slept during the day in whatever shade we could find. The heat was massive, dense, the kind that gets into your brain and makes thinking feel like pushing through syrup. Dalton was professional, quiet. We communicated in hand signals and short words. He took point most of the time. I covered our 6. By the end of the second day, we were maybe 5 clicks from the target, close enough to start real reconnaissance. We found a rise with good visibility, set up our optics, glassed the compound. It looked exactly like the satellite photos. 20 buildings in various states of decay. Greenhouses with broken panes. Dirt roads connecting everything in a grid pattern that spoke to Soviet efficiency. And people. Lots of people. Standing in the open. Not moving, just standing. What are they doing? Dalton asked. I watched through my scope. The people were scattered throughout the compound. Some in groups, some alone. All of them perfectly still. Not sleeping, not resting. Just standing. Facing random directions. Like statues. I don't know, I said. We watched for 2 hours. The sun moved across the sky. Shadows shifted. The people didn't. Then, exactly at noon, they all moved at once. Turned 90 degrees to the left. All of them. Every single person. Synchronized. Perfect. Then they stopped again. Did you see that? Dalton asked. Yeah. What the fuck was that? I don't know. We kept watching. Around 3 in the afternoon, a truck arrived. Old Soviet model, canvas cover over the bed. It drove into the compound and stopped in front of the largest building. 2 men got out of the cab. Normal men, moving normal. They opened the truck's tailgate and started unloading supplies. Bags of rice, crates of bottled water, medical supplies. The people in the compound didn't react, didn't approach, didn't help, just stood there. The 2 men finished unloading, got back in their truck, drove away. The supplies sat in the dirt. After they left, the people moved again. This time, not in unison. They walked to the supplies, picked them up, carried them into buildings. Their movements were efficient but wrong. Jerky, like puppets on strings handled by someone still learning the controls. We need to get closer, I said. We waited until dark. Moved down from our observation point using the terrain for cover. The compound had no lighting except what spilled from a few windows. No generators running that we could hear. Maybe solar. Maybe nothing. We approached from the east, low and slow. The fence around the compound was chain link, rusted through in places. We found a gap and slipped through. Inside now, committed. The nearest building was a greenhouse. We moved to it, pressed against the wall. I could see through the broken glass. Inside were plants, growing in neat rows, being tended by people who moved with that same jerky precision. Watering, pruning, harvesting in complete darkness. How are they seeing? Dalton whispered. Maybe they're not. We moved between buildings, staying in shadows, watching. Every building was occupied. Every one had people inside doing tasks that didn't need doing. Sweeping floors that were already clean. Organizing supplies that were already organized. Moving things from one spot to another and then back again. We needed to get inside the main building. That's where the answers would be. We circled around to the back entrance. No lock, no guard, just a door hanging open on its hinges. Inside was a hallway, concrete floor, walls painted institutional green, fluorescent lights overhead, half of them dead. At the far end was another door, light showing underneath it. We moved down the hallway, slow, weapons up, every nerve screaming that this was wrong, that we should turn around. But you don't turn around, you complete the mission. At the door, I listened, heard something, a voice, speaking in a language I didn't recognize. Not Arabic, not Amharic, something else. The cadence was wrong, too regular, too perfect, like a recording. I looked at Dalton, he nodded. I pushed the door open. Inside was an office, desk, filing cabinets, a computer that looked too new to be here, and sitting at the desk was a man, late 50s, white, Western features. He was speaking into a microphone connected to the computer. That same language, that same perfect cadence. He stopped when he saw us, looked up, smiled. "Right on time," he said. American accent, Midwest somewhere. I kept my weapon on him. "Who are you?" "My name's Dr. Carson. I've been expecting you." "Nobody knew we were coming," Dalton said. "I did. You're the third team they've sent. Well, the third team I've detected. Could be more that I missed, but I doubt it. I'm very thorough." "What is this place?" I asked. Exactly what it was designed to be. Agricultural research. We're studying optimal crop rotation in semi-arid climates. Very important work. Climate change is going to make this kind of research vital. What about the people outside? The research subjects, they're participating voluntarily. Voluntarily, I repeated. They're standing in the dirt like mannequins. Dr. Carson's smile widened. They're waiting for instructions. It's more efficient than having them wander around aimlessly. When I need them to perform a task, I tell them, they perform it. Then they wait for the next instruction. Very simple, very elegant. Dalton moved closer. "How are you controlling them?" Control is such an ugly word. I prefer coordination, and I'm not doing it. They're doing it to themselves. I just showed them how. Showed them how to what? To listen. To really listen. Not with their ears, with something deeper. There's a frequency, you see, just below conscious perception. It's always been there. Background noise of the universe. Most people never notice it. But if you train yourself, if you really focus, you can hear it. And once you hear it, once you understand it, you realize it's not noise at all. It's instructions. Instructions from who? I asked. From what, not who? The pattern, the structure underlying everything. I didn't create it, I just found a way to help people perceive it. And once they perceive it, they understand their place in it. They understand what they're supposed to do. I looked at Dalton. He looked at me. We were both thinking the same thing. This man was insane. "You're coming with us," I said. "No," Dr. Carson said, simple, definite. "I'm not. That wasn't a request. And my response wasn't a negotiation. I'm staying here. My work is too important, but you're welcome to leave any time you'd like. Actually, I encourage it. The longer you stay, the harder it will be." "Harder how?" "To leave without listening. The pattern is very strong here. I've amplified it, focused it, made it impossible to ignore. You've already been exposed for, 10 minutes? 15? That's more than enough. You're hearing it now, you just don't realize it yet." I wanted to tell him he was wrong, that I didn't hear anything. But even as I thought it, I realized it wasn't true. There was something, a hum, just at the edge of perception. I'd thought it was tinnitus, or the building's electrical system, but it was too regular, too structured. "Don't listen to it," Dalton said. To me or himself, I wasn't sure. Dr. Carson laughed. "Too late for that. You can't unhear something. It's in your head now. It'll be there when you sleep, when you wake, when you think you're safe. And eventually, maybe tomorrow, maybe next month, maybe next year, you'll stop fighting it. You'll let it in. And then you'll understand what all these people understand. What I understand, that we're all part of something so much bigger than ourselves." I raised my weapon, pointed it at his head. "Shut up. Shooting me won't change anything. The pattern doesn't need me. I'm just a facilitator, an educator. The work will continue with or without me." "Then what use are you?" Dalton asked. "Good question." Dr. Carson reached into his desk drawer. I almost shot him right there, but he pulled out a folder, opened it, showed us what was inside. Photos, dozens of them. Different locations, different people, but all showing the same thing. Groups of people standing perfectly still, waiting. The photos were labeled, dates and locations. The earliest was from 18 months ago, a village in Sudan. The most recent was from last week, a refugee camp in Kenya. "It's spreading," Dr. Carson said. "Faster than I anticipated. Each person who listens becomes a carrier. They don't even have to try. They just exist near other people, and those people start to hear it too. Exponential growth. Beautiful, really. In another 5 years, maybe 10, it'll be global." "What happens then?" I asked. "Then we wait for instructions. All of us. Together, unified. No more conflict, no more chaos, just pure coordinated action toward whatever purpose the pattern requires. Won't that be wonderful?" Dalton shot him. Center mass. 3 rounds. Dr. Carson fell backward in his chair, hit the floor, didn't move. "Jesus Christ," I said. "He was insane. This whole thing is insane. We're leaving, now." We ran. Out of the office, down the hallway, through the door into the compound yard, and stopped. The people were all facing us, every single one. 300 sets of eyes locked on our position, not moving, not speaking, just staring. "Move," Dalton said. We walked, fast, not running. Running would be panic, and panic gets you killed. We walked with purpose toward the fence line. The people watched us go. Didn't follow, didn't approach, just watched. We made it through the gap in the fence, back into the bush. Put distance between us and that place, 1 mile, 2 miles. Didn't slow down until dawn when we had to stop or collapse. We sat in the shade of an acacia tree and didn't talk, both breathing hard, both shaking. "You good?" I asked. Dalton nodded. "Yeah, you?" "Yeah." We rested for an hour, drank water, ate some rations, then we kept moving. We had 40 miles to the extraction point. We covered it in 30 hours, running on adrenaline and fear and the absolute need to be anywhere but there. The helicopter was waiting. We climbed aboard. Didn't look back. As we lifted off, I saw Dalton was crying, silent tears running down his face. He didn't wipe them away, just sat there and stared at nothing. Bishop was waiting when we landed. He debriefed us in the same hangar where we'd started. We told him everything. The compound, the people, Dr. Carson, what he'd said about the pattern. Bishop listened, took notes, didn't react. When we finished, he closed his notebook. "You're both going to be evaluated," he said. "Psychological screening, standard procedure after Black Ops exposure." "This wasn't exposure," I said. "This was something else. I understand, but the evaluation is mandatory." We were separated after that. Different facilities, different doctors. They asked me the same questions over and over. What did I see? What did I hear? Did I feel any compulsion to return? Did I dream about it? I lied, said no to everything, said I was fine, said Dalton overreacted, that Dr. Carson was just a delusional scientist who'd spent too long isolated. They seemed to buy it. After 2 weeks, they cleared me, returned me to active duty. I didn't see Dalton again. I asked about him once. They told me he'd been medically discharged. Didn't say why. I tried to look him up a few years later. Couldn't find any record. Like he'd been erased. I got out in 2012. Civilian life. It was supposed to be easier. It wasn't. Because Dr. Carson was right about one thing. You can't unhear something. That hum, that pattern, it's always there. Background noise I can't escape. I started noticing things, small things at first. The way crowds move. Not random. Coordinated. People turning the same direction at the same time. Stepping in sync. For just a moment. Then breaking apart again. I thought I was going crazy. Seeing patterns where there weren't any. Apophenia, the doctors call it. The human brain's tendency to find meaning in randomness. I almost convinced myself that's all it was. Then, 3 months ago, I was at a shopping mall. Weekend crowd. Hundreds of people. I was getting coffee when everyone stopped. Just for a second. Every single person in the food court froze mid-motion. Then they all turned their heads to the left. Perfect unison. Then they continued what they were doing like nothing happened. Nobody reacted. Nobody seemed to notice. Except me. I went home. Locked the doors. Turned on every light. Sat in the corner with my service weapon and waited for something I couldn't name. Around midnight, I heard it change. The hum. It got louder, clearer, and underneath it, I could almost make out words. Not English, not any language, but structured, intentional, communication. I put my hands over my ears. Didn't help. It wasn't coming through my ears. Dr. Carson was right about that too. It's deeper, inside, part of your nervous system, part of your brain. I don't know how long I sat there, hours maybe. Eventually, the sun came up and the hum faded back to its normal level and I could function again. I called in sick to work. Spent the day researching. Looking for any mention of what Dr. Carson had been doing. Found nothing. The agricultural research station had been bulldozed 6 months after our mission. Official records said it was structurally unsound. No mention of the people. No mention of any research. But I found other things. Reports from across Africa, Asia, South America. People exhibiting strange synchronized behavior. Small groups at first. Dozens. Then hundreds. Authorities attributing it to religious movements, mass hysteria, contaminated water. But the pattern was there. Growing, spreading. Exactly like Dr. Carson predicted. Last week I saw it on the news. A town in Indonesia. Population 8,000. Emergency services responding to reports that nobody was answering their phones. When they arrived, they found the entire town standing in the streets. Not moving, just standing, waiting. The report said it was some kind of neurological event, possibly environmental. They evacuated the town, put it under quarantine. But I know better. I know what they're waiting for. And I know it's only a matter of time before I'm waiting too, because I can feel it now. The pull, the urge to stop thinking, stop questioning, stop fighting, to just listen and understand and accept my place in the pattern. It would be so easy, so restful. All this fear and doubt and struggling would just stop. Sometimes I stand in my living room for hours. Don't remember deciding to stand. Don't remember what I was doing before. Just find myself there, waiting. For what, I don't know. Not yet. But I will, we all will. I'm writing this down because I don't know how much longer I have. How much longer until I become like those people in the compound. Like the people in that Indonesian town. Part of something I can't comprehend or control. If you're reading this, if this document somehow got out, then you need to know it's already too late. You're hearing it now, just by reading these words, thinking about the pattern, focusing on the possibility of it. It's found you, and once it finds you, it never lets go. There's someone at my door, knocking. Steady rhythm. 1 knock per second, perfectly timed. I'm not going to answer it. I already know what I'll see. Dalton's face, or Der Carson's, or my own, all the same now, all part of the pattern. The knocking stopped. Now it's inside. My watch stopped at 11:47 p.m. I know because I checked it right before we went down the shaft, and it's been frozen at that exact time ever since. Doesn't matter that I've replaced the battery 4 times. Doesn't matter that 3 different jewelers have told me there's nothing mechanically wrong with it. It always shows 11:47 p.m. The mission was supposed to be simple. Kabul, 2010. We were doing security sweeps in advance of a diplomatic visit. Routine work, boring work, the kind you do half asleep because you've done it 1,000 times before. I was with 3 others, Grant, Briggs, and a local contractor named Hamid, who was supposed to know the city better than we knew our own mothers. Grant was team lead, good operator, by the book. Briggs was young, maybe 24, on his 2nd deployment. Green, but competent. Hamid had been working with us for 6 months. Vetted, reliable. Or so we thought. We were checking a building that was going to be used for the diplomatic meeting. Old Soviet construction from the 80s. Concrete and rebar in that particular shade of institutional gray that makes everything look like a prison. 3 stories above ground. And, according to the blueprints Hamid had sourced, 1 level of basement for utilities and storage. We cleared the upper floors without issue. Empty rooms, broken windows, graffiti on the walls in Dari and Pashto. The usual aftermath of decades of war. Then we headed to the basement. The stairs down were narrow, steep, the kind that were built when safety regulations weren't a consideration. At the bottom was a steel door, heavy, Cold War surplus. It wasn't locked. Grant pushed it open and we went through. The basement was larger than it should have been. The blueprints showed maybe 1,500 square feet. This was at least triple that. Multiple rooms branching off a central corridor, emergency lighting casting everything in sickly green. "This isn't right," Grant said. Hamid checked the blueprints, frowned. "Perhaps they are outdated. There may have been expansion." "When? This building's been abandoned for 20 years. Hamid had no answer. We moved forward anyway. Cleared room by room. Storage spaces mostly, old Soviet equipment rusting in corners, filing cabinets with documents so degraded you couldn't read them. Nothing suspicious. Nothing worth reporting. Then at the end of the corridor we found another door. This one was different. Newer, steel reinforced, with a keypad lock that had power despite the building being off-grid for years. "That's not on the blueprints at all," Briggs said. Grant tried the keypad. Dead. He tried forcing the door, wouldn't budge. We stood there looking at it, all of us thinking the same thing. We should go back up. Call it in. Get authorization before we proceed. But that's when Hamid said something that still doesn't sit right with me. "There's another way in." "Another way?" Grant asked. "Service tunnel, for maintenance. It should connect to the other side of this door." "Should?" "I've seen the city records. Soviet-era infrastructure. Many of these buildings have parallel access tunnels. Where's the entrance?" Hamid led us back down the corridor, stopped at what looked like a solid wall, pressed on a section of concrete. It shifted, pushed inward. Behind it was a narrow passage, dark, sloping downward. Grant looked at Hamid. "How did you know about this?" "City records," Hamid said again. "I studied them thoroughly." Something in his voice, something off, but Grant didn't catch it or didn't care. He activated his flashlight and entered the passage. We followed. It was tight, shoulder width. The ceiling low enough that we had to duck. The air was stale, dense, like breathing in a tomb. We descended for maybe 5 minutes, steep enough that we had to brace against the walls to keep from slipping. Then the passage opened into a chamber. It was circular, maybe 40 feet across. The walls were concrete but old, much older than the building above, pre-Soviet. Maybe British colonial, maybe older than that. In the center of the chamber was a shaft, vertical, about 6 feet in diameter, metal rungs set into the side leading down into darkness. "What is this?" Briggs asked. "The tunnel continues down," Hamid said. "We must go down to access the door from the other side." Grant shined his light down the shaft. The beam didn't reach bottom, just swallowed by dark. "How far down?" "Not far, perhaps 50 feet. Perhaps?" The records were unclear. Grant turned to look at him, really look at him. "What aren't you telling us?" Hamid's expression didn't change. "Nothing. I am helping you complete your mission." "Fuck this," Briggs said. "We go back up, call in technical teams, let them handle it." "That will take days," Hamid said. "The diplomatic visit is tomorrow. You must clear this building tonight." He was right, we all knew it. And standing there arguing wasn't getting us anywhere. Grant made the call. "We go down, quick look. If there's nothing down there, we climb back up and seal the passage. We're out in 30 minutes. We started down. Grant first, then Hamid, then me, then Briggs. The rungs were slick. Moisture or moss or something worse. Every few feet I'd feel my grip slip and have to catch myself. Below me, I could hear Grant breathing hard. Above me, Briggs was cursing under his breath. We climbed for longer than 50 feet, much longer. I started counting rungs after a while, stopped at 200. We'd descended at least 300 feet, maybe more, way deeper than any basement, way deeper than made any sense. "Grant," I called down, "how much farther?" "I see bottom," he called back. 20 more feet. We reached it. The shaft opened into another chamber, smaller this time, maybe 20 feet square, and there, on the far side, was a door. Same steel reinforced construction as the one we'd found upstairs, but this one was open, just slightly, light coming from the other side. Grant approached it slowly, weapon up. "Anyone in there? Identify yourself." No response. He pushed the door open wider. We moved through. Inside was a corridor, modern construction, clean, lit by fluorescent tubes. The walls were white. The floor was polished concrete, It looked like a hospital or a laboratory, nothing like Soviet infrastructure, nothing like anything that should exist 300 feet underground in Kabul. "What the fuck is this?" Briggs whispered. None of us answered. We moved down the corridor. It branched. We went right. Found more corridors, all identical. White walls, bright lights, perfectly clean, no dust, no decay, like someone had been maintaining this place. We found the first door maybe 50 yards in. It was labeled, white letters on black background, English. Observation 1. Grant tried the handle, unlocked. He opened it. Inside was a room, 10 by 10. Empty except for a chair. Metal frame. Restraints on the arms and legs. And on the wall behind the chair someone had written something in what looked like dried blood. They watched from between the seconds. "We're leaving," Grant said. "Right now." But when we turned to go back the way we'd come, the corridor looked different. The branch where we'd turned right was gone. There was just one corridor now, stretching in both directions, identical in both directions, like the one we'd come from had never existed. "This isn't possible," Briggs said. Hamid was quiet, too quiet. I grabbed him, spun him around. "What is this place?" "I don't know," he said. And I believed him because the fear in his eyes was real. We picked a direction, started walking, found more doors, more rooms, each one identical. Each one with a chair and restraints. Each one with writing on the walls. Different messages, different handwriting, but all saying variations of the same thing. Time doesn't move here. They keep us between the moments. We've been here for seconds that last forever. After the 10th room, Grant stopped, checked his watch. 11:47, he said. I checked mine, same time. Exactly the same time it had been when we entered the building. "Watches malfunction," Briggs said. "Battery drain. It happens." But his voice said he didn't believe it. We kept walking. The corridors never ended. We'd walk for what felt like hours and never reach anything. No exit, no change, just endless white walls and fluorescent lights and doors we stopped opening because we knew what we'd find. Then the lights started flickering. Not all at once, one by one, starting from behind us and moving forward. Like something was following us, turning off lights as it passed. "Move," Grant said. We ran. But the corridor never ended. We ran until our lungs burned and our legs cramped, and still there was just the corridor. Just lights flickering out behind us. Just darkness chasing us forward. Then Hamid fell. Just dropped, like his legs had stopped working. We stopped. Went back for him. He was conscious, but he wasn't moving. Staring at nothing. "Hamid," I said, shook him. "Get up." His lips moved. Words came out. Pashto, too fast to understand. Then English. "They're here, can't you see them? They're standing right next to you." I looked, saw nothing. Just empty corridor. Briggs and Grant. Nobody else. "Who's here?" Grant asked. "The ones who watch, the ones between. They've always been here, waiting, watching. They exist in the spaces we can't perceive, the gaps between moments. And when you come to a place like this, a place outside normal time, you can see them, they can see you." "He's in shock," Briggs said. "Hypothermia, maybe." Or Hamid's head turned, tracked something across the ceiling, something we couldn't see. His eyes were wide, terrified. "Don't let them touch you," he said. "Once they touch you, you're part of this place forever." Between the seconds, never moving forward, never moving back, just existing in the gap. Then he started screaming. We tried to help him, tried to lift him, but he fought us, screaming and thrashing and clawing at something on his skin we couldn't see. Then he went rigid, stopped breathing. His eyes were still open, still tracking that invisible thing. Grant checked for a pulse, shook his head. "He's gone." "What killed him?" Briggs asked. "I didn't see anything. There was nothing there." "I don't know, but we're not staying to find out." We left Hamid's body, kept moving. The lights kept flickering out behind us. But now we could hear something. Footsteps, multiple sets, matching our pace. When we stopped, they stopped. When we moved, they moved. "Something's following us," Briggs said. "Don't look back," Grant said. "Keep moving forward." But I did look back, couldn't help it, and I saw them. They were shaped like people, roughly but wrong, proportions off, movements too smooth, too fluid, like they weren't bound by the same physical laws we were. They walked in the darkness behind the flickering lights. Dozens of them, maybe more. "Getting closer, faster," I said. We ran again. But they kept pace. No matter how fast we moved, they stayed the same distance behind us. Always there, always following. Then Grant saw something ahead. A door different from the others. Red instead of white. He ran to it, tried the handle, locked. "Break it down," he said. We hit it together, shoulder to shoulder. The door held. We tried again. And again, behind us, those things were getting closer. Close enough now that I could hear them breathing. If breathing was the right word. Wet, rattling, wrong. The door gave. Crashed inward. We fell through. Into another chamber. This one was different. Circular again. But massive. Maybe 100 feet across, and in the center was the shaft. The same shaft we'd climbed down, or one exactly like it. Metal rungs leading up into darkness. "Climb," Grant said. We climbed, fast as we could, hand over hand. Not looking down, not looking at what was climbing up behind us. I could hear them, though. Metal rungs groaning under weight that shouldn't exist. Air displacement from movements too close. We climbed for what felt like hours. My arms were numb, my fingers cramping, but we kept going. Because stopping meant whatever was below us would catch up. Then I saw light above. Natural light, moonlight, the opening of the shaft. We climbed faster. Grant reached it first, pulled himself up and over. Reached down to help Briggs. Then me. We were in the chamber where we'd started. The circular room with the shaft in the center. But it looked different. Older. The walls were more degraded. The concrete crumbling in places. "How long were we down there?" Briggs asked. Grant checked his watch. 11:47. I checked mine. Same time. Briggs checked his. Started laughing, high, desperate. 11:47, it's still 11:47. We've been down there for hours, and it's still the same fucking time. "We need to leave," Grant said. "Now." We went back through the passage, up the slope, into the basement corridor. Everything looked wrong. The emergency lights were dimmer. The walls more deteriorated. Like decades had passed. We climbed the stairs to the ground floor, pushed open the door. The building was different. Not just older, different architecture. The layout was wrong. Rooms where there shouldn't be rooms. Walls missing. We were in a building, but it wasn't the building we'd entered. Grant tried his radio. Dead. Pulled out his sat phone. Also dead. We went to the windows. Looked outside. Kabul. But not the Kabul we knew. The streets were empty. No cars. No people. Buildings we recognized were in different states of construction or destruction than they should be. Some were missing entirely. Others had appeared that we'd never seen before. "What happened?" Briggs asked. His voice was shaking. "Where are we?" "Same place," Grant said. "Different time." "That's not possible." "Then explain what you're seeing." We couldn't. We searched for landmarks, something familiar, found a newspaper vendor. The papers were yellowed, brittle. The date on them was wrong. 5 years off, 5 years in the future. "We lost 5 years," I said. "Down in that place. We lost 5 years." Grant was shaking his head. "No, we didn't lose it. We were there for 5 years, in those corridors, but time wasn't moving, not normally. We experienced hours, but up here, 5 years passed." "Hamid knew," Briggs said. "He knew what this place was. He led us there deliberately." "Why would he do that?" "I don't know, but he knew. All that talk about city records and service tunnels, he was lying. He wanted us to go down there." We never found out why. Never got the chance to ask. Because when we finally made it back to our base, nobody recognized us. Our names were in the system, but flagged as deceased. Missing in action 5 years ago during a routine security sweep. Memorial services had been held. Our personal effects had been shipped home to families who'd spent 5 years mourning us. They put us in isolation, questioned us, made us repeat our story over and over, medical examinations, psychological evaluations. They couldn't explain it. We'd aged maybe 12 hours, but 5 years had passed. Eventually, they let us go, discharged us quietly, made us sign forms that said we'd never speak about what happened, gave us new identities because our old ones belonged to dead men. I've tried to move on, got a job, found an apartment, live something approximating a normal life. But I can't shake the feeling that we're still down there, that we never really climbed out, that what we're experiencing now, this whole world, it's just another corridor, another room, another trick of that place. Because sometimes I catch glimpses, in my peripheral vision, shapes that aren't quite right, movements too smooth, too fluid. The same things that were following us in those tunnels. They're here too, in this world, in this time, watching from between the seconds. And my watch still says 11:47 p.m. I've tried to research what that building was, what could have been underneath it. Found nothing in official records. But I found stories, whispers, Soviet experiments during the occupation, attempts to weaponize temporal perception, to create spaces outside normal causality where soldiers could train for subjective years while only moments passed in the real world. The experiments failed, or succeeded too well. Created spaces that existed outside time completely. Pockets of reality that didn't move forward or backward. Just existed. Forever. And anyone who entered them became part of them. Last week I saw Grant, or someone who looked like Grant, standing across the street from my apartment. Just standing there, not moving. He was wearing the same clothes he'd been wearing when we climbed out of that shaft 5 years ago. Same expression, same everything. I went down to confront him, but when I got to street level he was gone. Nobody there, like he'd never existed. Then yesterday I saw Briggs, same thing, standing in a crowd, perfectly still while everyone around him moved. I tried to reach him, pushed through the crowd, but he was always just out of reach. Finally, the crowd cleared and he was gone, and last night I heard someone knocking on my door. I looked through the peephole. It was me, standing in the hallway, wearing the same clothes I'm wearing right now. Same expression, staring directly at the peephole. I didn't open the door. I backed away. Sat in the corner of my living room with my hands over my ears and waited for morning. The knocking never stopped. Perfectly timed. 1 knock per second. Knock, knock, knock. When sunrise came, I checked the peephole again. The hallway was empty, but there was something on the floor in front of my door. An envelope. I opened the door slowly, grabbed the envelope, closed the door fast. Inside was a single piece of paper, a blueprint for a building in Kabul, the same building we'd entered 5 years ago. With one addition someone had drawn in red ink, a shaft leading down, and at the bottom, written in small, precise letters, "You never left." I checked my watch. 11:47 p.m. It's been 11:47 p.m. for 5 years, and I think it's going to be 11:47 p.m. forever. There are no birds here anymore. I noticed that the first morning. Woke up to silence so complete it felt like being underwater. No gulls, no terns, nothing. For an island in the South Pacific, that should have been impossible. But there it was. Silence. This was 2012. The mission briefing was thin, almost non-existent. Just coordinates and a single objective. Investigate suspicious activity at an abandoned research facility. No intel on what kind of research. No background on who'd operated the facility or when they'd left. Just a location and a timeline. Get in, assess, report back. 7 days max. They sent 2 of us, me and a guy named Walker. I'd worked with Walker before. 6 months in Helmand Province, then some contract work in Southeast Asia. He was reliable, thorough, not prone to imagination. Good traits for this kind of work. We came in by boat, 40-foot fishing trawler operated by a local contractor who wouldn't tell us his name. Dropped us on the eastern beach just before dawn. Said he'd be back in 7 days, exactly 7 days, not a minute early. We asked why he was so specific about that. He just looked at us and said the waters around the island were difficult to navigate. Had to catch the right tide and current. Then he was gone. Engine fading into the distance, leaving us alone on a beach made of black volcanic sand that felt wrong under our boots. Too soft, like walking on ash. The island was maybe 2 miles across, roughly circular, volcanic in origin but dormant for thousands of years. Dense jungle covering most of the interior, and somewhere in that jungle was the research facility we'd come to investigate. We humped inland from the beach. The jungle was thick, humid, the kind of heat that soaks through your clothes in minutes, but quiet, that unnatural quiet. No insects, no birds, no animal sounds at all, just our breathing and our footsteps, and the wet sound of vegetation brushing against our gear. After 3 hours, we found it. The facility was a compound, 6 buildings arranged in a hexagon around a central courtyard, all single-story, concrete construction with corrugated metal roofs, weathered but intact. No visible damage, like someone had just walked away and never come back. The main gate was open, not forced, just open. We approached carefully, weapons ready, eyes scanning for threats. But the compound was empty. No guards, no movement, nothing. Walker checked the first building. I took the second. Both were identical. Single, large room, laboratory equipment, workbenches, chemical storage. Everything left in place. Beakers still on the benches, chemicals still in their containers. Papers scattered across desks, like the researchers had been working one moment and were gone the next. The courtyard had a well in the center, old, much older than the buildings. Stone construction that predated modern architecture by centuries. There was a bucket on a rope, but when Walker tested it, the rope was rotten. Snapped immediately, the bucket fell. We listened for it to hit water, kept listening. Never heard it land. Deep, Walker said. We continued our search. Building 3 was living quarters, bunk beds, personal effects, photographs on the walls. I looked at them. Groups of researchers, smiling, healthy. In one photo, they were holding up a catch from fishing. Big tuna. In another, they were celebrating something with bottles of beer. Normal people doing normal things, except their eyes. In every photograph, if you looked close, their eyes were wrong. Not obviously, just slightly off. Like they were looking at something behind the camera, something that shouldn't be there. Building 4 was storage. Supplies, food, water, medical equipment, enough for maybe 20 people to live for several months. But the food was old. Cans rusted, packages degraded. This place had been abandoned for years. Building 5 was communications, radio equipment, satellite uplink, all powered down. Walker tried to fire it up, but the power grid for the compound was dead. No generator running, no solar panels functioning. Just dead technology in an empty room. Building 6 was locked, heavy steel door, no windows. We tried to force it. Wouldn't budge. Walker set a small charge, breached the door. Inside was different from the other buildings. The walls were lined with shelves, and on the shelves were jars. Hundreds of them, each one filled with liquid. And in each jar was something organic. Tissue samples, maybe, or specimens. Hard to tell because the liquid had gone cloudy over the years. But some of the jars were labeled, written in English. Dates and times and brief descriptions. Sample 47, day 12. Subject shows increased responsiveness. Sample 91, day 34. Cellular mutation accelerating. Sample 103, day 58. Specimen attempting communication. What were they studying? Walker asked. I picked up one of the jars, looked at it closer. The thing inside had a shape, vaguely humanoid, but wrong. Too many limbs, or not enough, hard to tell through the murky liquid. I don't know, but I don't think we should be here. We heard something outside. Both of us froze, listening. There it was again. Footsteps, slow, deliberate. Crossing the courtyard. Walker moved to the door, looked out, went very still. What is it? I whispered. There's someone out there. I looked, there was. A figure standing in the courtyard, facing the well, not moving, just standing. We exited the building, weapons raised. Identify yourself, Walker called out. The figure didn't turn, didn't acknowledge us, just stood there. We approached, slowly, carefully. As we got closer, I could see it was a woman, maybe 50 years old, wearing research clothes, lab coat, boots. Her hair was long, unkempt. Her skin was pale, too pale, like she hadn't seen sun in years. Ma'am, I said, we're here to help. Can you hear me? She turned, looked at us, smiled. It was the same smile from the photographs. Wrong, off, like it was being performed rather than felt. You came, she said. Her voice was hoarse, unused. I knew someone would come eventually. I've been waiting. Waiting for what? Walker asked. To show you. To help you understand. Before it's too late. Before what's too late? Before you hear it. The calling, it starts quietly, just at the edge of perception. Then it gets louder, clearer, until you can't ignore it anymore. Until you have to respond. She took a step toward us. We both raised our weapons higher. Stay back, Walker said. She stopped, still smiling. You don't understand yet, but you will. We all did. All of us who came here. We thought we were studying it, documenting it, controlling it. But we were wrong. It was studying us, learning from us, preparing. Preparing for what? To emerge, to spread, to become. It's been down there for so long, waiting, growing, and now it's almost ready. All it needs is carriers, vectors, people to carry it out into the world. What's down there? I asked. What are you talking about? She pointed at the well. Down there, in the deep, where light doesn't reach, where nothing should live, but it does live. It's lived there for longer than humans have existed, and it's hungry. Walker lowered his weapon slightly. You're not making sense. Are you one of the researchers? What happened to everyone else? They listened. They went down to see, to document, to collect samples, and when they came back up, they weren't themselves anymore. They were carriers, hosts. The thing in the deep had gotten inside them, changed them, made them part of itself. Where are they now? Down there, where they belong. Where we all belong eventually. The calling is too strong to resist. I've been resisting for 3 years, but I can feel it weakening me. Soon I'll go down too. Join the others, become part of the deep. She started walking toward the well. We moved to stop her, but she was fast, faster than she should have been. She ran, jumped, disappeared into the well before we could grab her. We ran to the edge, looked down, saw nothing, just darkness, absolute and complete. Jesus Christ, Walker said. We stood there, not knowing what to do. We couldn't help her, couldn't even see where she'd gone. The well was too deep, too dark. Then we heard her voice, coming up from below, echoing off stone walls. It's beautiful down here. You should see it. You should come see it. Her voice was different now. Multiple tones at once, like she was harmonizing with herself, or with something else. Come down, come see, we're waiting for you. Walker backed away from the well. We're leaving, right now. We packed our gear, moved fast, got out of the compound and headed back toward the beach. The jungle was still quiet, still empty, but now it felt different, like something was watching, waiting. We made camp that night on the beach, took turns on watch. I had first shift, sat there in the dark listening to the ocean. Except the ocean was wrong too. The waves were too regular, too rhythmic, like they were being controlled by something beneath the surface. I kept my weapon close, checked and rechecked our perimeter. We'd set up tripwires with bells attached, basic early warning system. But the jungle stayed quiet. Too quiet, like everything living had fled this place long ago. Around 2200 hours, I started noticing something in the water. Phosphorescence. Glowing patches that moved just beneath the surface. I'd seen bioluminescent plankton before. This wasn't that. These moved with purpose, with intelligence. They circled the shore maybe 50 yards out, never coming closer, never moving away, just circling, watching. I didn't wake Walker. Told myself there was no point worrying him. But the truth was I needed him to sleep while he still could, before the calling got to him too. Around midnight I heard Walker moving, looked over. He was sitting up in his sleeping bag, eyes open, staring at nothing. Walker, I said, you good? He didn't answer, just kept staring. His pupils were dilated, completely black, and in the moonlight I could see his lips moving, shaping words I couldn't hear. I moved closer, waved my hand in front of his face. No response. He was looking through me, past me, at something only he could perceive. Then he spoke, but it wasn't his voice. It was multiple voices, layered, harmonizing. Some higher than human vocal cords could produce, some lower. It's calling me. Can you hear it? Down in the deep. It knows we're here. It wants us to come home. Walker, snap out of it. His eyes focused on me. For a second they looked normal, human. Then something else slid behind them. Something that wore Walker's face but wasn't him. You don't hear it yet, but you will. We all hear it eventually. Everyone who comes to this island, the calling is too strong, too old, too hungry. I grabbed him, shook him hard. Wake up, you're not yourself. He smiled. That same wrong smile from the photographs, from the woman at the well. I've never been more myself, I understand now. What we are, what we're supposed to become, vessels, carriers for something greater than ourselves. He stood up, smooth, too smooth. His movements weren't right, joints bending at angles they shouldn't. He started walking toward the jungle, toward the interior of the island, toward the compound, toward the well. I tackled him, brought him down hard on the black sand. He didn't fight, didn't resist, just lay there smiling up at the stars. It's too late for me, but maybe not for you. Maybe you can still leave. Get off the island before the calling reaches you, before you understand what's waiting in the deep. I'm not leaving you. You have to. If you stay, you'll end up like me, like all of us, down in the deep, part of the calling, part of the hunger, part of what's coming. His voice was getting quieter, fading, like he was speaking from farther and farther away even though he was right beneath me. They showed me things, he whispered, down there, in the deep. Things that existed before the first cell divided, before life crawled out of the ocean. They've been waiting so long, watching the world change above them, waiting for the right time to rise. What are you talking about? The old ones, the deep ones, the things that sleep and dream and call. They're not dead, they're not alive, there's something in between, something outside our understanding of existence. And they've chosen this island, this well, as their door, their gateway. When enough carriers spread across the world, when enough voices join the calling, the door will open fully, and they'll emerge. Then he went limp, passed out. I checked his vitals. Pulse was steady but slow, breathing shallow. His skin was cold, clammy, like he'd been in ice water. But something was wrong. I could feel it. Something had changed in him fundamentally. I tied him up, hands and feet, used our climbing rope, made sure he couldn't get free. Then I waited for dawn. But dawn never came. I checked my watch. 0400. Should have been getting light soon. But the sky stayed dark. Stars above, but no hint of sunrise on the horizon. I waited another hour. Still dark. Another hour. Still dark. The night was lasting too long, like the island was holding on to darkness, keeping the sun away. I tried the radio. Dead. Sat phone. Also dead. Flare gun. Fired one into the sky. The flare arced up, disappeared. Never came down. Like the sky had swallowed it. Walker woke up around what should have been 0700, but was still dark. He looked at me. Normal eyes now. Normal expression. What happened? He asked. You don't remember? I remember going to sleep. Then nothing. Why am I tied up? I told him about the voices, about him trying to walk back to the well, about the things he'd said. He went pale. I didn't say that. I wouldn't say that. You did. Then it started. The calling. She was right. I heard it. And once you hear it, you can't unhear it. We're leaving. As soon as the boat comes back. 6 more days. 6 days, Walker repeated. A lot can happen in 6 days. The darkness lasted for 3 days. 72 hours of night. No sun, no explanation, The stars wheeled overhead in their normal patterns, but the sun never rose. We stayed on the beach, took turns sleeping, took turns watching each other, making sure neither of us tried to go back to that well. On the fourth day, the sun finally came up, but it was wrong. Too red, too large. It hung on the horizon like a wound in the sky and didn't move, just stayed there. Bleeding light across the water. "This isn't natural," Walker said. "Nothing about this place is natural." That night I heard it for the first time. The calling, not with my ears, deeper than that, in my bones. In my blood, a pull, an urge, to go back to the compound, to look down into the well, to see what was down there in the deep. I fought it, gripped my weapon until my hands ached, focused on breathing, on staying present, on not listening to that voice that wasn't a voice. Walker was having the same struggle. I could see it in his face, the way his eyes kept drifting toward the jungle, the way his body would lean in that direction before he caught himself. "Talk to me," I said. "Keep talking. Don't let it in." So he talked about his childhood, his family, his training, anything to fill the silence, to drown out the calling. And I talked too. Same topics, same desperate need to stay connected to something real. Something human. It worked. For a while. But the calling got stronger, more insistent. By the sixth day, we were both barely holding on. We'd stopped sleeping, stopped eating, just sat there on the beach with our backs to the jungle, facing the ocean, waiting for a boat that might not come. Then, on the morning of the seventh day, we heard an engine. Distant, but getting closer. We stood up, scanned the horizon, saw it. The fishing trawler, coming to extract us. Relief flooded through me. We were going to make it. We were going to get off this island. The boat anchored offshore. The contractor came in on a dinghy, same guy who'd dropped us off. He looked at us, looked at the jungle behind us, nodded like he understood something we didn't. "You're ready to leave?" he asked. "Yes," I said, "right now. Both of you." I looked at Walker. He was staring at the jungle, at something I couldn't see. "Walker," I said, "let's go." "I can't," he said quietly. "Yes, you can. The boat's here. We're leaving." "I can't. It won't let me. The calling is too strong. I have to go back. I have to see what's in the deep." "Fight it. You can fight it." He looked at me, tears running down his face. "I've been fighting it for 6 days. I don't have anything left. I'm sorry." Then he ran into the jungle, toward the compound. I started after him, but the contractor grabbed my arm. "Let him go," he said. "I can't leave him. He's already gone. The island has him now, same as it has all the others. If you go after him, it'll have you too." "What is this place?" "Old. Older than any of us know. The well goes down to something that shouldn't exist. Something that's been calling people here for centuries. Fishermen, explorers, researchers. They all hear it eventually, and they all go down to see. And they never come back up. Not as themselves." "What about you? Why doesn't it affect you?" He touched his ears. For the first time, I noticed the scars. Scar tissue where his eardrums should be. "I can't hear it. Can't hear anything. It's the only way to survive near this place. The only way to come and go without being claimed." He got back in the dinghy, started rowing toward the boat. "Are you coming or not?" he asked. I looked at the jungle, thought about Walker, about going after him, about trying to bring him back. But I could hear it now. The calling, louder than ever. And I knew if I went into that jungle I wouldn't come back. Not as myself. So I got in the dinghy. We rowed to the boat, climbed aboard. As we pulled anchor, I looked back at the island, saw figures emerging from the jungle. walking to the beach. Maybe 20 of them, researchers, in their old lab coats and boots, standing at the water's edge, watching us leave. They were all smiling, that same wrong smile. And they were all calling to me, multiple voices in harmony, inviting me back, promising me understanding, promising me purpose, promising me a place in the deep. I covered my ears, turned away. The boat's engine roared to life and we pulled away from the island. I never reported what happened, never filled out the mission debrief. Just said Walker stayed behind to continue the investigation. Said I'd been ordered to extract for medical reasons. They seemed to accept it. Didn't push for details. Nobody wanted to dig too deep into black operations that went sideways. Easier to file it away and forget. I got out 6 months later. Honorable discharge. Full benefits. They offered me a position with a contractor doing security consulting. Good money. Easy work. I turned it down, couldn't explain why. Just knew I needed distance. From the service, from the ocean, from everything. I moved to Colorado. Denver, as far inland as I could get. High altitude, dry air. Somewhere, the calling couldn't reach me. I found work doing risk assessment for corporate clients. Boring, safe, normal. The kind of life that feels fake after what I'd seen. But I adapted. Humans are good at that. We adapt to anything given enough time. I bought a house, started dating someone, made friends with neighbors who'd never left the country and thought Afghanistan was somewhere near Egypt. I became normal. For a while. But I still heard it sometimes, late at night when the city went quiet. A pull, an urge. To go back to the island, to go down into the well, to see what was waiting in the deep. At first it was once a month, then once a week, then every night. I tried everything. White noise machines, medication, therapy with doctors who prescribed pills for anxiety and PTSD, without understanding what I was actually dealing with. None of it worked, because the calling wasn't in my head. It was deeper than that, in my blood, in my cells, in whatever part of me had been touched by that place. 3 months after I got out, I started finding things, small things at first. A grain of black volcanic sand in my shoe, even though I hadn't been near a beach. A wet footprint on my bathroom floor shaped like Walker's boot. A smell in my apartment. Salt water and decay, and something older than either. I told myself I was imagining it. Stress. Trauma. The mind playing tricks. But the things kept appearing, getting more frequent, more obvious. Then 6 months after the island, I woke up one morning to find my hands covered in salt. Dried, crusted. Like I'd been swimming in the ocean. But I was in Denver, 1,000 miles from the nearest coastline. And I didn't remember leaving my bed. I started sleeping with my door locked from the outside. Asked my girlfriend at the time to keep the key, told her I had sleepwalking issues. She thought it was weird but went along with it. For a while. Then one night I woke up outside my apartment building, barefoot, wearing just boxers, standing in the parking lot staring south, toward the ocean, toward the island. My girlfriend was there. She'd followed me. She asked what I was doing. I couldn't answer, couldn't remember leaving the apartment, couldn't remember her unlocking the door. She left me the next day, said I needed help she couldn't provide, said she was scared of me, of what I'd become. I didn't blame her. I was scared of me too. I doubled down on the therapy, tried to explain to the doctors what was really happening, that something from that island had gotten inside me, was changing me, calling me back. They increased my medication, suggested inpatient treatment. I refused. I knew medication wouldn't fix this. A year after the island, I tried to kill myself. Pills and alcohol, classic combination. I didn't want to die. I just wanted the calling to stop. Wanted whatever was inside me to die. wanted silence. They found me in time, pumped my stomach, put me on a psychiatric hold, 72 hours in a room with no windows and a door that locked from the outside. I should have felt trapped, claustrophobic. Instead, I felt safer than I had in months. The walls were thick. The silence was complete. For 3 days, I didn't hear the calling. Then they released me, and it came back. Stronger than before, like it was angry I'd tried to escape. I started researching, looking for any mention of the island, of the well, of other people who'd heard the calling. Found nothing in official records. The island didn't exist on any map. The research facility had never been documented. Even the coordinates I'd been given led to empty ocean. But I found other things. Stories, legends, scattered across different cultures, different time periods, all describing the same thing. A place where the deep ones wait, where the old gods sleep, where human minds can't go without breaking. The stories used different names, different languages, but the pattern was the same. An island, a well, a calling that couldn't be ignored, and people who heard it, who went down into the deep, who never came back the same. Some stories said the deep ones were older than the earth itself, that they'd come from somewhere else, somewhere outside our dimension, our reality. They'd been trapped here, buried, sleeping, but not dead, never dead, just waiting for the stars to align right, for the door to open, for enough carriers to spread their influence. I started to wonder if Walker had been right, if there really was something down in that well, something that shouldn't exist, something that was using people like us to spread, to prepare the world for its emergence. 2 years after the island, I saw Walker again. Not in person. On video. Security footage from a ferry in Indonesia. There he was, standing on the deck, staring at the water, wearing the same clothes he'd been wearing when he ran into the jungle. The footage was dated 3 weeks prior. I tried to track him, contacted everyone I knew in the intelligence community, called in favors I'd been saving for years. Nobody could find him. The ferry company had no record of him boarding. The security footage was the only evidence he'd been there. But I knew he was out there, moving, spreading, doing whatever the deep ones wanted him to do. And I knew I was next. The calling got stronger every day. By year 3, I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, could barely function. I'd stand at my window for hours staring south, calculating distances, planning routes. My rational mind knew it was insane, but the part of me that belonged to the island now didn't care about rationality. I tried cutting myself off from the world, sold my house, gave away my possessions, moved into a cheap motel with no windows, thought maybe if I couldn't see the direction I wouldn't feel the pull. I was wrong. I found myself outside the motel one night. No memory of leaving, standing in the parking lot. My car was running, keys in the ignition. I'd loaded it with supplies, water, food, camping gear, everything I'd need for a long journey. I'd done all of this while asleep, or while something else controlled my body. That's when I knew I couldn't fight it anymore. That eventually my body would take me back, whether I wanted to go or not. That whatever happened on that island 3 years ago had fundamentally changed something in me. Made me part of it. A carrier, a vector, just like the woman had said. Last month I bought a plane ticket. First to Los Angeles, then to Manila, then island hopping through the Philippines toward the South Pacific. The same route Walker and I had taken. I told myself I was just scouting, just checking. But I knew the truth. I was going back. I'm writing this from a hotel room in Manila. My flight leaves in 6 hours. The calling is so loud now I can barely think over it. It's not a sound, not a voice. It's a pull, a gravity, A fundamental force that's rewriting my nervous system, making return inevitable. I thought about warning people, about posting this story online, about telling the world what's waiting in the deep. But who would believe me? And what good would it do if the deep ones are real, if they're as old and patient as the stories say? Then they've been planning this for eons. My warning wouldn't change anything. Besides, I think it wants me to tell people. Wants the story to spread. Because even reading about the calling can make you susceptible to it. Can plant the seed. Can make you part of it. That's how it spreads. Through stories. Through shared knowledge. Through the simple act of knowing it exists. If you've read this far, I'm sorry. I've probably infected you too. You'll start hearing it soon. Maybe not today, maybe not this year, but eventually, when it's quiet, when you're alone, you'll feel that pull, that urge to find the island, to look down into the well, to see what's waiting in the deep. And you'll go, just like I'm going, just like Walker went, just like everyone who hears the calling eventually goes. Because it doesn't stop. It never stops. It's older than humanity, older than life. It's been waiting since before the first cell divided, since before the first thought was thought, and it can wait forever. But it doesn't have to wait anymore. The door is opening. I'm going to help it open. We all are. See you in the deep.